Hello, you're very welcome to AFI Weekly here on the Under Centre podcast. Daragh here with you. I'm delighted to be joined as always now. This is our AFI Weekly crew it's turning into without Fionn and Al. It's Alex and it's Rian. No better duo to have with me here tonight, lads. How are we?
The finest. Thank you very much.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. The Alex Sims
I
fan
think I'm
club
on a
is
bit of a
out
lag
in
here, so
force already.
I heard nothing of what you said, but I presume it was hi. How are you? Is everything all right?
Oh, you are on a lag. You're on like a 1980s
He's on a Scott
dial tone
Buchanan
there.
lag.
Like, yeah. Oh, God. Yes, that was the question, Rain. I'll wait. This is almost like Darragh Farrell levels when we had him on at the start of the season now as well. Because he's always gone now. Okay,
And he's
he's going to
totally
try. Yeah, he's had enough. He's had enough. Anyway, Alex, how was your long weekend, sir? How was your Paddy's weekend?
lovely. Yeah, absolutely. I got the good weather, and enjoyed it. Enjoyed a long weekend. Wish I was playing some football on it like you were, Dara, but we'll get into it 1 week closer.
Yeah, well, I guess some people, and I've seen it in various group chats and social media posts, could make the argument that we didn't play football over the weekend. But we'll get into that in a little bit in time. We have 3 games to cover from this past weekend. Of course, the Premier Division clash on Saturday between the South Dublin Panthers and the Belfast Trojans. The other Saturday encounter between the two teams in black, the Kildare Crusaders and the Antrim Stags, and then Sunday's fixture between the Minotaurs and the West Dublin Rhinos. Let's start with the Premier Division. The South Dublin Panthers 7, the Belfast Trojans 47. An extremely one-sided game. A game that didn't start from the very beginning for the Panthers because their game was delayed by 10 minutes because when the referee showed up, they saw that the pitch was 10 yards too narrow because they were using the rugby marking. So they had to go out, and Rian's reaction says it all. That
10 yards is a lot.
Yeah, too narrow. So it was only 40 yards wide. So they had to go and get some spray paint and to make it a little wider before kickoff. My brain, and I'm sure everybody else's brain of the team, couldn't comprehend that because you're thinking the sideline is one line and it's further that way. And at times I did make the mistake of standing on the pitch by mistake because I thought it was the other sideline. Lucky I was at the other end of the pitch and I wasn't having to tackle any of the Trojans' rushing attack because they had 4 different scores on the day, including Rayshon Boswell, Oren Wilson, Adam Mackley, and Mo Ramadan. There was also 2 passing touchdowns in there too, from Dom Lynn to Michael Ferris. And also to top it off, we can't forget about Max Dimitrov's pick 6. And the Trojans were 40-0 up at halftime. And it was we speculated about it before the game about potential issues when it came to numbers with Panthers this year. The numbers weren't too bad. It was your middle on about 20-25 that were there on the day. Unfortunately, it was quite a quiet sideline. There wasn't a lot going on there. As far as I'm aware, I didn't get a chance to really talk to any Panthers personnel before or after the game, but I'm not certain on what's going on with the head coach situation, if there is one going to be coming in the near future. But Rain, I'll start with you first on this one. We'll get to the positive sides of the Trojans and their stuff first, but on the Panther side, a very tough start to this season for them.
I don't think Rian's there, Dara. He's been frozen like that for the last 2 minutes.
He's gone.
Okay. All right. I suppose I'll
Alex,
take it up.
Alex, I'm just going to let you go on. Yeah, you go ahead there, pal.
100%. So, I mean, the Trojans really put down a marker for where they want to be this season with the way they came out. But yeah, the Panthers, look, we kind of knew they were going to be down some bodies. Fionn kind of sent us a laundry list of guys that were going to be out. The likes of Maddie, Finn Kearns not being there, Sean Goldrick, along with a couple of key other players. So it was always going to be a tough one going against the Trojans. You kind of when you've got that kind of change in the squad, you're probably looking to start it off with an easier game than the Trojans, who have sort of the Trojans. Like, they were impressive. I don't want to say they weren't impressive, but they've sort of flattered to deceive in recent years. They always look great on the social medias. It all looks good, and then on the pitch, maybe they just haven't been at the heights. Not to say that they've been poor or anything, just they haven't hit the heights of, say, UCD and the Rebels have set in recent years. So I think this season they're really out to prove that they've built this now for the last 3 years since we all came back after the break for COVID, that they're really wanting to put down a marker and go further this year than they've been able to go since the UCD Rebels duopoly has sort of been established. So it's great to see them performing really well and clicking early. They've got some good talent on their team there. We knew they had from last year. As we said, Dom has another year under his belt there at QB. They've got this new running back, Rayshawn Boswell, who seems to be pretty electric based on the tape I've seen of him. And I mean, for the Panthers, where do you go really? That's a tough outing. Obviously, they were 40-0 down in the first half, so already you could say they've picked up a bit of momentum, improving in that second half. It was a 7-7 tie in the second half, so they can always take that with them. But yeah, as you mentioned there, with the sort of lack of real coaching that was going on the sideline, you sort of worry about who's there to pick them up after this, and to sort of lead the charge. Let's go again. And pick on what they need to do to improve. You'd worry from that angle of things, that they really need some strong leaders there. Like, I've played under playing coaches before, and it's great they can do their job fine, but it is difficult to straddle that boundary of player and coach. Like, they're two quite different roles, and you'd want to think that they've got some strong leaders and voices in that changing room to really be able to pick them up and to keep going, and then hopefully that they can build and still be a competitive team this year.
Mm-hmm. And look, I don't want it to sound like a doom and gloom sort of situation. There was some good things, especially on offense with Connor Haskins. He's was running the ball as well as he can. There was some movement on that O-line to give him the space to run. My fear is that there wasn't a lot coming from the passing game. And we saw, if you were at the game and if you are able to watch the tape of it, but you might have seen that, at the end of the game, Connor was struggling, and I think he didn't finish the game. And that would be my worry, is if you're going to run him into the ground and he does pick up some sort of injury. Now, I know you have, what is it? The other running back's name? Kerry?
Niall Kerry, yeah.
Niall Kerry, yeah. He is there too, and another very good running back. But, if one or both of those guys go down, what are you going to do with your offense? And Conor Murphy, obviously himself, grabbing the rushing touchdown for his side after the team went on a good drive. I almost certain it was all run plays for that too. I'd have to go back and watch the tape to make sure. But that's something that's going to have to start being brought into, it's always said in the league, around the league, and people who play in the league, Alex, that, D1, you run the ball. Premier Division, you got to learn how to pass the ball. Mm-hmm. And if the Panthers can't pass the ball and can't learn how to pass the ball, it's going to be a very, very long season for them.
Yeah. I think is this, outside of UCD, is this the demise of Dublin football? Between SDP, the Rebels, and yourselves, the West Dublin, 7 points scored from the 3 games you played in. So the rest of the nation rejoices as Dublin's downfall is played out.
Oh God, I know that's what you're waiting on, but hey, look, listen, let's just give it a week. That's why when I put up that table earlier on the socials, I had to say the way too early table, because until you play 3 games, every team plays at least 3 games. So you're not really certain on who's gonna. Who's playing where and who's doing well, but I know it's that type of weekend, and it's been that type of start of the season where if you're not looking at UCD and you're looking at the other Dublin teams, it has been a struggle.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. Look, there's plenty of season left, but we are a podcast and we have to overreact. It's like contractually obliged that we overreact to these 1 week results. Rayshon Boswell is heading for the NFL draft, as far as I'm concerned.
He's already got my vote for league MVP. That's which is going to be fun. And look, and this is the thing. Let's looking at the Trojan side of things. A very good win. I think they went with their first 4 drives at least. They scored on every single one. They were clinical. It wasn't. It was a lot of run. There was a Dom contributed, of course, in the passing game too, which you need to. But this is good to see that there are going to be. Hopefully, there's going to be other teams that are going to step up to this plate, and it's not going to be this boring 1-team league this season in the Premier Division with UCD just pushing everyone aside. We need this sort of Trojans coming together now, and the offense look like it's clicking, and the defense that we've known for a while that the defense can play well. So, we're encouraging it.
Yeah, I absolutely back the Trojans to do it this year and to sort of bridge that gap that we have seen, and give us a good showing. As you said, I think the next 2 games for both the sides are probably going to be telling, certainly from the Panthers side. So they've travelled down to UL, I believe, not this weekend, but next weekend. And that will be an interesting one, definitely. I think, the Panthers, again, they'll have a week now, a full week to sort of get back in and let the leaders sort of take control there, regroup the lads and be like, right, lads, we need to be ready to go down to UL now against the team and prove that it's not this hammering isn't going to be, all of a sudden we're being relegated. We need to prove ourselves against, the other half of the table and show that we're a more balanced side than that. It was just the Trojans were really good and we caught them when they were red hot. And we've still got something left in the tank for the season. Yeah,
and look, trying to look into your, loud coloured crystal ball, Alex. Mm-hmm. If the Panthers do go down to Limerick and don't win, do we have to sort of consider them maybe as relegation potential?
It's early, 2 games. It's very early to be declaring anyone relegated, but I think that's going to tell you what half of the table they end up in. If they lose that game, I think if they lose that game, you're not going to. I'm not going to say that they're relegated if they lose that game, but I can't see them making the playoffs if they also, and it also depends how they play. If they lay an egg in Limerick, then you worry for them. If they go down and it's a competitive game and they lose by a score, I certainly wouldn't be saying, "Oh yeah, no, that's it for them." But so it very much depends on what sort of Panthers team we come out and how much energy they play with and what, because that's what I think the key is, that sort of motivating factor there and that sort of organizational. Where is that going to come from on the Panthers side? I want to see someone step up. If maybe Fionn steps into a role as head coach there or something now that he's retired from the playing side. I just don't. We got to see some leadership from them, definitely. But look, they're still a good team. They've still got some bones of some guys there who, they still have some guys there who played in a Shamrock Bowl, the last one before COVID, was 2019. So, I got to believe that there's still some quality in there to shine. So definitely not writing them off yet.
Mm-hmm. Rian, any closing thoughts on the Panthers or Trojans before we move on? I know you haven't had a chance to
Yeah.
really speak about the game.
No, look, I presume he's covered pretty much everything that I got to say, but the Trojans were very impressive in that game. I see them as probably the number 2 to UCD at the moment after that victory. Whereas the Panthers, yeah, I'd be a little bit worried about them, to be honest. They seem like the one and only kind of rudderless team in that Premier Division at the moment, and being a rudderless franchise is never a good thing. So, look, hopefully they can steady the ship, but I wouldn't be holding out too much hope for this season.
Okay. Like Alex said, both teams are back in action next week. The Panthers travel to UL to take on the Vikings, and the Trojans are heading to Craigavon to take on the Cowboys. So quick turnarounds for both teams. Moving on to the 2 Division 1 games, we'll start with the game on Saturday. That is the Kildare Crusaders going up against the newly formed Antrim Stags. The Crusaders win out 41 points to 22. In terms of scoring, there was 2 rushing touchdowns for Wello. Jordan Farrell had 3 passing touchdowns, including 1 to Nathan Purcell and 2 to Alan Sork. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm really sorry if I didn't. On the Stag side of things, there was a rushing touchdown for QB Scott McLean and Duncan McGuire, and then Scott McLean also threw passing touchdowns to Jay Burton. Sorry. Interesting game here. I'm sure whatever group chats we're involved in would have heard the news when it came to Saturday with this game that there was a jersey clash. The Stags only have a black jersey for this year, I believe, or their jersey wasn't ready yet. They had these fill-in black jerseys, and they didn't. There was some sort of breakdown in communication between them and the league and the Crusaders, because the Crusaders were then meant to wear white. They didn't have enough white jerseys. They played in their blacks. The officials allowed both teams to play. We did get the game started off with the Crusaders going up a couple of scores. The Stags brought it back, though, and at one point we're leading in the third quarter, 22 points to 19, before the Crusaders then came back and took the win, like I said, by 41 points to 22. Rain, I'll let you go first on this one. For the Stags, a very good and promising first outing for the team now, going to Kildare, and you could legitimately say scaring the Crusaders for a little while.
Absolutely. I mean, leading in the third quarter, I don't think anybody thought that was going to happen. And we touched on it last week that this Crusaders team has a bit of firepower to them now. They still have Wello there. Farrell obviously is an excellent QB. And they have a couple of imports from the Rebels as well. So, yeah, they're a very decent team out there. So I was surprised to see the Stags go down there and really put it up to them. I'm not sure what the numbers were on the day. Maybe that's where kind of in the fourth quarter they fell away. It was just that they ran out of gas in the tank. But they'll be energized going into the weeks to come, knowing that it's not a lost hope for them this season. Putting up a performance like that against arguably a playoff contender for Division 1 this season is an excellent performance. And yeah, hopefully they can recreate that a few times as the season progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair play to the Stags. They performed well on the day. They got there. Yeah, the jersey mix-up was interesting. All right. I had varying texts coming in that the game was being cancelled. It was going to be a forfeit, and then it was back on. And I think I had a few of the miles were down. I'd send them pictures from the sideline, been like, guess who's who? Trying to decipher that. Watching the tape is rough as well. With the two teams in the same colours, but look, you survive, and at the end of the day, both sides got to play football, which is all that we want to see happening. Yeah, look, the Stags team showed that they're no slouches, and they're not going to just be like some teams we've seen in the past where they're just getting beat to nil every week. They've got some talent in that team, like Scott McLean's Division 2 winner with the Jets. Duncan Maguire's been around a bit. He was running the ball excellently. And they've got a couple of other names in there. I think in the end, the Crusaders class just showed with the likes of Wello, the quality they have in Wello and Jordan just shone through and allowed them to sort of accelerate away when it looked dangerous at one point. So yeah, I mean, a good performance offensively by the Crusaders. They'll probably want to to tidy a few things up on defense. Stags equally will want to sort of look at it again on defense. They were sort of being killed on the outside there, so maybe addressing things defensively. But a good game, and I think probably the first high-scoring close game that we've seen. I know it ended up being 19 points, but it was probably the first high. Obviously we had the Vipers Giants was 12-8, so it was closer game. But this was probably the first one where leads were changing a couple of times. Getting to that sort of traditional football that we like to see. Because we don't want to just see blowouts here, do we? We like to see a good competitive game. So fair play to both sides, and well done to the Crusaders on sealing it with their quality in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. The Crusaders begin with a win, which is what they wanted. They did score points, which is what they wanted. Probably conceded more points than they would have liked. Stuff to work on. For next games, actually, Crusaders get a quick turnaround because they play the Giants this Saturday, which we'll look ahead to, of course. And the Stags have a couple of weeks now to get ready for their trip up to the Vale Centre against the Vipers on the 6th of April. So they have a bit of time now to just, one, get their jerseys, and two, get obviously offense and defense games down to come up with a plan to beat the Vipers. In that one, I don't think there's anything more to add on that. The Minotaurs beat a team on Sunday.
They didn't just beat a team.
We move on to the other game on Sunday, the one that mattered more. Instead. Just in time, because by the sounds of it, you might just be. Yes, let's talk about then the Westmeath Minotaurs 37, the Dublin Rhinos 0. Tough one on Sunday. The Minotaurs were 16-0 up at half time. They were actually 16-0 up at the end of the third quarter. Unfortunately, chasing the game, having to maybe abandon the plan and try and push to get some scores on the board and to move the ball, and was kind of our downfall. And the Minotaurs obviously pumped the score up in the fourth quarter, getting another 3 touchdowns, 21 points. It hurts as well because this is our double header team this year. So that means they have now a 37-point aggregate lead. When it comes to this now, when it comes to the head-to-head, we meet them again in our last game of the season, last regular season game towards the end of June. So if it comes down to us being level on points now, we're going to have to look at beating them by 38 points, which is going to be tough. But look, it's there's been a lot of change. Obviously, then you would have seen that we started a rookie QB. A tough scenario for Kevin to start his playing career. Going up against a recently relegated SPC side who have a very strong defense. We were beaten by the better side. Fair play to the Minotaurs. Quarterback Sean McCormick had 5 passing touchdowns on the day. 3 to Domas Vise. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. I'm very sorry if I didn't. Who is a rookie, who's his first game as well. He scored a hat-trick of touchdowns. Rafa Montero and Cottle Dunn were the other 2 scorers as well. Look, hands up. We got beat. can't really say any more than that. We have to feel sorry for yourself for about 5 minutes and then move on and look ahead to the next game. But yeah, lads, I'll open it to Alex first on this one. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the tape available that's been up there in quick cuts, but your thoughts on the game.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
be kind, please, because I have your kick button hovering.
No. Congrats to the Minotaurs. A good win there. I did watch the highlights today. It is difficult to, like, when you've got a new offensive scheme that you're trying to install with a rookie quarterback. Like, that's going to have its sort of drawbacks. But I'm just concerned. I'm concerned about the Rhinos, Daragh, and it's really one man. You've got a new guy in there, sort of, holding the clipboard, so to speak. This Sean McVay fella, like, I'm going to go a bit aim and dumpy here. Like, he's a cod, Daragh. He's a cod. Like, what, he plays a couple of seasons at UCD, wins one Shamrock Bowl, like, plays behind an incredible offensive line. He's a running back, and he wins a Shamrock Bowl, then goes off on his jollies to Switzerland. Can't even win a Swiss Bowl over there. Comes back, has an unfortunate knee injury, and now he's sort of selling himself as this, football consultant and coming in to help, the poor old West Dublin Rhinos. West Dublin Rhinos were doing fine before Sean McVay got there. That's just, they lost the Harp Bowl, beat the Mavs, lost the Harp Bowl last year, had a great season. And McVay comes in here and starts, spouting about his schemes and gap zones and, GT counters and all this sort of stuff. I'm concerned. I think he's conned the people of West Dublin. I think he's conned you, Daragh, and I'm sorry to see it. No response. He knows he plays on offense, so he knows to keep his mouth shut or he'll be benched because McVay is a tyrant. But on the
I finally got my starting spot. I'm not going to lose it.
On the Minotaurs, yeah. Look, obviously that was satire for those who don't know. McVay is a good friend. But look, the Minotaurs played very well, about as well as you can expect, while without your starting, your quarterback for years. Another guy who's he's got a podcast. He talks a lot of football. Clearly, Joe Kennan was holding the Minotaurs back as well. Like, I mean, two people proclaimed pillars of Irish sport. The Irish game over here have sort of just been taken down in one fell swoop in this game. Sean had a great game at QB. He's got his rookie wide receiver there that making a great connection. 3 touchdowns on the field. Rafa and Cahill as well just showed some of that SBC quality, which I think probably made a big difference on the day as well. It is tough starting against somebody has to play the relegated team first, and unfortunately it was Yee this year, and I think that bit of quality that they had just showed. But it is still impressive from the Minotaurs to put up that kind of a day. On defense and on offense, they weren't without their. I suppose it wasn't a perfect day. There was a couple of picks, a couple of exchange fumbles as well. I think on the day, a couple of fumbles in the backfield there. So they've got plenty to work on and clean up. But they'll be more than happy with their day out on Sunday. And for yourselves at West Dublin, yeah, I know you've got this meeting now. That you potentially have to pop off for. I assume it's Sean's either firing or hopefully public execution would maybe be more appropriate. But yeah, look,
yes,
yeah, you guys know what you have to do. You've got some guys there who've been around the game for a long time, unlike Sean. So you guys, you have the heads there and you have the leaders there to not let this go longer than this weekend. You'll just regroup, rebuild, and be ready for the next game that you're playing. Is your next game against us actually, or
Vipers next week?
Vipers next week, and then you've us in April. Very good, yeah. So yeah, good win for the Minotaurs. Put down the stamp. They want to get straight back up to that SBC clearly, and they've laid down a marker for it.
Rain?
Yeah, I mean, what stood out to me most about the game was, now obviously I am not involved in an AFI club this year, which means I don't have access to the quick cuts. But what stood out to me was the 5 passing touchdowns. I mean, I went and saw a couple of Minotaurs games last season, and the word of the day every time I was there was ground and pound. They just ran the rock, and they did so very well. So I was surprised to see 5 passing touchdowns on the board from a team that traditionally ran the ball quite well. So that's obviously tough as well for the Rhinos to kind of game plan for. You're probably coming in thinking that you're going to have to stack the box against a really tough offensive line and a really tough running back. And then they come out and throw the ball all over the yard. So it's difficult to react to that kind of situation. And as well, I have a lot of sympathy for the quarterback there, as you said yourself, Daragh, rookie coming into a game of this kind of magnitude on your first one. It's very tough. The first game of my career as a starter, so I obviously started at the back end of my first season, but my second season, first game in, I had 4 picks and a fumble in that game. So it's very, very tough when you're coming in as kind of the incumbent. Tough to get your head straight, but I'm sure it'll be better for the next game. He's got that one out of the way. So yeah, it's an opportunity for the Rhinos to grow from here.
Yeah, that's a very good point there about the running game, Rian. And as Daragh just mentioned in the previous game, SBC is usually passing league, whereas Division 1's a running league. So that makes the change up there. Yeah, it might have caught you on the hop.
Yeah. Well, look, they use their strengths. Sean, their quarterback came from flag. He did play kid before that, but he had been playing mostly flag recently. So, you could see watching back in the routes that there was some flag routes in there, short crossers and everything like that, and quick outs and stuff to make him as comfortable as possible. And probably us as an offense didn't do a good enough job to get our quarterback as comfortable as possible, and that's on us, and that's what we have to make sure we fix ahead of the next game, like I said, against the Vipers on Saturday week. But look, listen, these games happen. It's about how you answer back, and I expect us to answer back well. And I look, it's going to be a tough game as well now on the Vipers, because the Vipers have their tails up because they just beat the Giants a few weeks ago, and they're going to think that we're going to go up there and they're going to give us a hammer and we're going to be 0-2 back down to Dublin with our tail between our legs, thinking, what are we going to do? So it's such a, for this early of the season, it's such a fascinating game with so much potentially on the line. It's going to be quite a game, and one that we're going to have to be ready for. And I have no doubts that we will be after I do this public shaming with Sean in this chat, which I'm going to jump onto now in a few minutes. But lads, look, listen, that's what I said. I will jump off at this point. The two lads here are going to continue on. They're going to look ahead to the weekend's games. We have 4 to look ahead to. 2 in the Premier Division, 2 in Division 1. Before I let you go, this show and every show this AFI season is going to be brought to you by Rainrocks Web Design. They are the guys behind the new UCP.ie website. They are the guys that designed that site to absolute perfection. We have the matches, the standings, the results. It's all there for you. It has all of our previous podcasts there too for you to catch up on. So make sure you head over to ucp.ie for the latest tables, fixtures, results, all you need. But that's it for me on this one. And I will leave you in the very capable hands of Alex and Rian for the rest of this.
All right. Thanks, Daragh.
Do you want to take the lead?
Sure. I don't mind, Rian, but let's not dither on it anyway. And we'll kick into looking ahead at the Premier Division games. I have Dara's agenda here in front of me. So on Saturday, we've got Knights v Admirals. So I think that's a replay of last year's plate final, wasn't it? The Knights and Admirals. Admirals won that one, I believe. There's going to be an interesting one in the playoff race. you would like to think that both of these teams would definitely have their sights set on the playoffs. And the Knights have already started. They're 0-1, but they're one defeat win against UCD, which you'd sort of expect to catch most teams. So, what are your thoughts on this one, Ryan?
Yeah, I think home field advantage, as it usually is in these sort of games, is going to play a big part. I think it's up in Belfast, right? This game?
I believe so, yeah.
Right. So that's going to give a huge advantage to the Knights. It is a long trip up there. I wouldn't be surprised if they were spending the night in Belfast prior to this one, because it's the length of the country, realistically. The one thing that I will say for this one is I give the Knights another little bit of an advantage there, insofar as they have played a game, so they've cut their teeth a little bit in this competition. They know where they need to improve. They know where their strengths lie. Whereas the ads, they're coming in as a little bit of an unknown. So look, the ads have got plenty of firepower there, but we're yet to see anything from them so far. So yeah, they have, I think, traditionally kind of been slow starters at the beginning of the season. Which is another worry for me. But it's a fascinating game, and I think it's one that both teams will be looking at as an opportunity to get off the board and kind of really lay out their stall in terms of their playoff hopes for the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another key factor will be how the Knights have recovered from their injuries against UCD, because we did see a couple of their guys going down. Marty Caskey, Liam Moores, and I think did Zach McDowell go down injured as well? I can't remember on that one, but they did have a couple of injuries coming out of the UCD game. So hopefully all those guys are back on the field, because if they're at full strength, I think they're a great team, like a really good potential for this year. The Admirals, then, on their side of things are going to be a little bit different. They're under a new head coach in Brendan Kelleher, but he has always been there, defensive coordinator. So I don't imagine there's been too much of a sort of scheme shift from what they've run in recent years. But it still is an adjustment, and we have kind of seen teams under new coaching. It generally takes a while to click. We've seen that, and we've said that before. It can take a few games before it clicks. So with that factored in, and with the travel, I think I'm going to be in agreement with you that I think the Knights are probably going to pinch this one. I expect a close game, though. I expect a close game. And it'll be interesting because, again, it's young QBs. It was sort of the highlight last year. We sort of highlighted this as the battle of the two emerging QBs between Ben Kennedy there in Cork and Liam Moore. So it'll be interesting to see that sort of that they should be another step further on their development. Both of them, we already know Liam put in a decent performance before he went out, unfortunately, against UCD, and it was Zach in. So it will be interesting to see that sort of match up. Again, what are you thinking results wise?
Yeah, I think this is very much dependent on how the first half goes. So I think with the Knights having that kind of extra bit of preparation time in game, if they can jump out to a lead in the first half, I can see this game getting away from the Admirals. But if the Admirals keep it close for the first half, it's an open ball game. Yeah, in terms of making an actual prediction on this, I'd say probably the former. I think that they're going to jump out to a couple score leads at the half, and then from there they'll just power on. I think it might be a 3 or 4 score victory for the Knights in this one.
Okay, awesome. And then on Sunday in the Premier Division, we have the Cowboys hosting the Vikings. Another long journey for the boys from UL. I believe they are travelling up on Saturday. I have heard reports of that, definitely, that they're staying up the Saturday night, which is, again, great. And nice to be able to do that as well. I'll actually be refereeing this game with a couple of other lads from the Mavs, so look forward to getting out there, and as ever, send the bribes my way, lads. But This is going to be an interesting one. This is a newly promoted side against a side that's they were newly promoted last year. They struggled, but they survived. But I think we've kind of seen a trend, a little bit of a trend post-COVID, is that the team that goes up survives a year and then gets relegated. So this is going to be their sort of make or break second album, so to speak. So this will be a really interesting one to see how this one goes. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's going to be a case of can the Vikings break that streak of the newly promoted team taking a year and then coming back down again? It's going to be really, really tough for them. Being a college side, I hope that they've added some decent numbers to that roster, because I think at the end of the season last year, they were kind of dwindling numbers wise, not to the extent that they had to forfeit games or anything like that, but certainly weren't in the strong position that they were in the start of the season. So I'd like to have seen that they've added a few faces down there. Whereas on the flip side of it, the Cowboys, they're the new team in the SBC, but in reality, they're not. They have a lot of seasoned veterans out there. QB position obviously springs to mind. And they have only taken one very successful season in AFI 1 to get back to the jump. So this is going to be a tough one for the Vikings, and maybe a game that the Cowboys look at as a very winnable game, and a way of setting out their stall for the season, making sure that they are not going right back down to AFI 1 this season.
Yeah, absolutely. That point on recruitment will be interesting to see how the Vikings do get on, because we know they have lost some numbers. Obviously, I think that is the trouble with college, especially when you're not the likes of UCD, when people tend to stick in Dublin, that they have lost some guys that have moved away from the area down in Limerick as they've finished at college. But yeah, as you say, every year what a college brings in a new opportunity to recruit new blood, and they could have, they could have 11 unreal American lads in who've played since Pee-wee level. We just won't know until Sunday. That's the joy of it. But the Cowboys, we know a little bit more about. They've been around the block, as I said. They're probably quite a veteran side at this point. It'll be interesting to see how they got along, how much recruitment have they had. With their promotion last year, they did pretty well. On the field, and I'm fairly certain that off the field they did a lot of good work as well in the off season, and have gotten a good boost in numbers to sort of bolster them for a season in the SBC, because it is always difficult. And I think both these teams have prepped pretty well. As I know the Cowboys, I've been involved in 2 separate scrimmages with them. From a Mavs point, the Vikings, I think, were scrimmaging with the Eagles, and then they would have had the intervarsities even before Christmas with UCD. So I think these teams will probably be less rusty than one might expect at this point in the season. But yeah, I'm looking forward to a good game, and probably a close one as well. I reckon I'm going to say the Cowboys win this one, but only by a score.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page as you there. I think it's got to be a nail biter. Any game that Peter Loughran's involved in is going to have potential for scores. So I think we are going to see scores. It's not going to be a 6-0 or a 6-3 kind of game. I think we're going to see multiple touchdowns from either side. But yeah, no more than a score between these sides. And I'm probably favoring the Cowboys in this one.
Absolutely. That's the 2 Premier Division games for the weekend. So we'll drop down Division 1 and go back to the Saturday. So on Saturday, it's Crusaders versus Giants. So Crusaders have a back-to-back. They'll be coming off their win against the Stags, and ready to play host to another team from the north. This one coming down 0-1. Tough, lost late to a late score from the Vipers. So they'll still be licking their wounds from that, the Giants. And they'll be eager to sort of set the record straight. They beat the Crusaders in the Shield final last year. Again, I can never remember which one's the Shield and which one's the Plate. But They did win that against the Crusaders, so it is a rematch of this one, much like in the Premier Division. But what do you see with this one, Rian?
Yeah, what stands out to me in this one is the kind of old adage that there's nothing more dangerous than a wounded dog, and I think the Giants are a bit of a wounded dog in this situation. They wouldn't have been expecting to be coming into this game 0-1. I think they feel like they're much better than the result that they had previously. But yeah, it's one of those ones. I think they do have a lot more talent in their team than the scoreline suggested from a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, if I'm the Crusaders, I'm not taking this game too lightly. The Giants are certainly going to come down and give them a tough game, as they did in the Shield last year. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, agree. And I think having watched both the film from the Vipers versus the Giants and the Crusaders versus the Stags, I can imagine that the Giants will have just been practicing outside contain on outside runs since the Vipers game lost, because that is really where they sort of lost, in my opinion. They struggled to contain those outside runs, the sweeps to the outside, and that is something that the Crusaders really favour behind the seasoned veteran legs of Wello running there. So that is a matchup I'm very interested to see how the Giants handle that. And on the other side, I think the Crusaders have shown that they're not their defense isn't the tightest defense in the league. So the Giants will be hoping to get more ball moving, score more than one touchdown maybe. And I think that will be another one of their focuses: get the ball rolling more, get a lot of sort of stuff to put them behind the chains. A lot of penalties went against them, against the Vipers, kind of put you in those situations where it's really difficult to get things going. 1st and 20, 2nd and 20, sort of just stuff that really puts you behind it and gets knocks out pretty much half of your playbook on some of those. So they'll be eager to have that discipline, and it's the same thing really with the defense of keeping the outside contained. That's all about discipline. So I think that will have been what's preached up there in Armoy, and they'll be coming down ready to go. I think I'll struggle to call this one. I think this one should be another really close, good match as well. Which is great to see that we've so many, because we've had a lot of blowouts early. I think I'm gonna go for a third home victory again. I'm gonna say the Crusaders win this one as well. But again, I'm seeing only a score in it myself. What say you, Rian?
Yeah, the key for me, I think, with the Giants is going to be get the ball going early on the ground. It's where they've excelled in years previously. They've always traditionally been a run-heavy team. And like you said, Alex, the penalties and stuff, getting into 1st and 20, 2nd and 20 situations, it kills a regular offense to be in those situations. It really kills a run-heavy team because you don't have 20-yard plays in your back pocket. So if they can get the ball rolling on 1st down, 2nd down, with the run game, then it really opens things up. And I think that's where it's going to then become a tighter game. The shorter the Giants can make this game, I think the better, because there is a lot of experience and explosiveness on the opposite side of the football. Wello, of course, doesn't need to be talked about any further. He has the potential to break off 60, 70, 80-yard runs at any stage during the game. So the amount of time that you can have him on the pitch, if you can make that as short as possible, that's what you really need to do. So yeah, I think I'm on the same page as you. I think I'm going to go with a Kildare win, but I think it's going to be a tight one. I think it's going to be a score in it.
Perfect. And then the last one for this weekend on Sunday in Westmeath is the Minotaurs off the back of their great opening win against the Rhinos. They're playing host to the Eagles. So we haven't seen nothing from the Eagles yet. We've seen that sort of pretty good performance from the Minotaurs. They'll be hopeful to build on that. We don't know a whole pile about the Eagles. They did actually. I say we haven't seen much. They did play a game, and I believe it was live streamed as well. So maybe some of us have seen the Eagles. I personally haven't seen that game yet. So I think they played the Philadelphia Blue Flames, at the weekend in that charity game. So they're not going to be coming in sort of blunt anyway. They'll be sharp and ready to go. What are you seeing for this one?
Yeah, from that game at the weekend that they had against the Philadelphia Blue Flame, what stuck out to me from maybe some of the social posts was that they might be lacking in numbers, which is always a worry. The AFI season, 8 games, it's tough to get through when you're down at the kind of 22, 23 player kind of level, and it's a really, really tough game to be beginning your campaign against a Minotaurs team who have really set their stall out versus the Rhinos with a really impressive victory. So yeah, I think this is going to be a tough one for the Eagles, to be honest. The Minotaurs will be hoping to just pick up where they left off versus the Rhinos. Obviously, going back-to-back weeks is not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to do, particularly at a D1 level where squad sizes might be a little bit smaller, less opportunity to rotate. But yeah, they'll be looking to kick on and really just lay another marker down to show the rest of the league that they're looking to get right back to the Premier Division as quickly as possible. So in this one, to be honest, I see it as a one-way kind of game. I can see it being pretty close to the scoreline that they got against the Rhinos as well. So something in the 30-40-0 variety.
Yeah. The Eagles are, of course, under new coaching staff as well. Ross McCooey there, down from the Rebels. I think he's got a couple of other assistants there as well. So it's a new offense they're running as well. Much like the Rhinos, they were running new guys in. It's going to be a tough one for them, definitely. The Minotaurs have that experience. They have that SBC quality as well. The Eagles were a playoff team last year, so I wouldn't completely write them off. I'd like to see them at least get in the end zone, certainly for a morale point of view, to sort of something to build on, and also just to scare the Minotaurs a bit, because they don't start looking like a runaway freight train before we have to play them. So yeah, I think I agree with you though, Rian. I think the Minotaurs should do pretty well in this one, should wrap it up easily enough. But as I said, like to see the Eagles get in the end zone once or twice. But I can see it certainly being a victory for the team in purple.
Yeah. What I will say in favor of the Eagles is that they've always managed to produce pretty potent offenses with maybe not the most impressive athletes in the world. Like, we've played against them a few times, and you never had any one guy stick out going, whoa, he's like the bee's knees. They were able to run the ball very effectively without having a super mobile QB last year, which was something that you don't really see in AFI very often. Usually the successful running teams have a mobile QB to kind of back up that running back. So yeah, they do have a certain something on offense. I don't know how much of that is going to be carried over with the change in coaching staff, but yeah, it's a positive that we may need to look at. And like you said, hopefully they do get the ball in the end zone at least once or twice this Sunday.
Absolutely. I think that pretty much wraps it up for the weekend. Look ahead anyway. That's the 4 games that we played. Week 4 games, as the AFI continues this theme of as many games as week numbers. I think last week's the last week of it. Week 5, we've got 5 games, and then it sort of levels out, and it's 4 or 5 games for the rest of the season. But yeah, great to have football on our pitches again. So there are 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday. So if you're looking to get your football fixed, head out to Belfast, Craigavon, Kildare, or Westmeath. And of course, keep an eye on our socials for any updates if you can't make it to a game. And if you are at a game, we'll probably put out a shout that we might be at. We generally tend to pick up a game or two ourselves, send some guys out. But if you're at a game and you're watching it, send us in some scores via the DMs so we can keep abreast of what's happening and keep everyone else updated. That's always a great help. So cheers to any of the lads who were doing that this weekend. I know Wilson for the Stags was helping us out. He was unable to make the trip down to Kildare, so he was sending us the updates from the team group chat. So we appreciate that as always. And any final points from you, Rian?
Oh, I think we're good to go. We finished under time because Dara's not around to keep rambling on.
Keep rambling on with his questions and his probing questions, trying to set us up for failure every time, Rian.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, to you and to all of our listeners out there, and we'll see you next week. Peace. I don't know how to end this.
I'm only in as a guest, so we may just need to log off.
All right, I'm going to leave the studio and hope that the podcast ends. Goodbye, folks.